My name's Jason Jarrett. I'm an exercise scientist and an exercise physiologist. Every injury is unique and every fitness goal is unique. Work with me and you'll get the professional direction you need with your situation. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the 8-week challenge. Have you ever done an 8-week challenge? How do you find it? Is it useful? Should we do it? Could we do it? Would we do it? No. Well, here we go. 8-week challenge. What's the problem with the 8-week challenge? Jason, why don't you like the 8-week challenge? Here's the problem with the 8-week challenge. I'll tell you. Are you ready? The problem is it's focused on short-term gain, and it often doesn't carry over into long-term gain or long-term results. An 8-week challenge is structured in such a way as to promise you results in 8 weeks and to do, a weigh-in and whatever at the beginning and then a weigh-in at the end, and oh look, it's amazing, you've lost weight, you've toned up, you've been on this crazy diet we've given you for 8 weeks, and you've been exercising 5 times a week. Oh, it's incredible, you've made all these changes. What happens after the 8 weeks? You know what happens after the 8 weeks. You completely relapse. You go back to your old ways, your old patterns. Has anybody seen The Biggest Loser? What always happened when we touched base with people who were on the show? They put on the weight. They put the weight back on. This type of crash dieting and crash exercise simply doesn't work for the long term. It's not to say that there's not a place for things like 8-week challenges, as long as they're structured in such a way that you understand it's the beginning of the journey and you shouldn't expect a lot of results in 8 weeks. I would argue that if you're getting a lot of results in the first 8 weeks of a program, you're probably doing something wrong. You're probably crash dieting and crash exercise. You're probably doing something that's not sustainable. Why? Because we know about something. If I just pull something out of the air, for example, look at exercise. We know about something called neuromuscular adaptation. That is when you do a new exercise, it can take 4 weeks for your body to get used to a new exercise. What that means is you have relative strength increases on an exercise without necessarily your body composition changing, because your body's figuring out how to do the exercise, how to do it more efficiently, and that means you're able to lift more weight. Now, it can take in excess of 6 weeks to begin to see body composition changes if we're doing things safely and in an appropriate way. So the problem there is then we see that when there's big changes within a 6 or an 8 week period, that means that you've made massive changes to either your nutrition or your exercise. And I would argue that's not a good thing, because like I've already mentioned, how's it sustainable? You have to be on a crash diet to lose or make a lot of changes in 8 weeks. And you have to be doing an unsustainable amount of exercise to make a lot of changes in 8 weeks. Now, I have no doubt that there's 1 or 2 people out there who have probably done an 8-week challenge and gone on to continue exercise and sustain the changes they've made. I would also argue they're very much the exception and not the rule. I would also say, great work. Like you probably realized when you did the 8-week challenge that was just the beginning. You realized that was the start of your journey, and you used that 8-week challenge as a launch pad to keep going. So on that note, as long as that's how you perceive an 8-week challenge, it's not the beginning and the end of your journey. It's use it as a motivational tool. It's great. You're probably touching base with a trainer once or twice a week. You're getting all these tools, but try not to see that as you're getting to where you need to be in 8 weeks. Just you see it as an introduction, see it as something to get you started. Have a plan for week 9 and week 10, that doesn't involve an 8-week challenge, okay? So I really encourage you to look beyond the 8 weeks. I like metaphors. So what metaphor can we use? It's a little bit like when you're baking something in the oven. If you overbake it, it comes out burnt. Well, that's essentially what's happening when we get too many results too quickly. We're at high risk of injury. We're at high risk of relapse, particularly when it comes to nutrition. We're at high risk of relapse because you can't change everything at once. Look at nutrition. Look at, okay, what happens when you go on an 8-week challenge and they give you a diet plan? You change everything. You eat an apple for breakfast. You have a salad for lunch. So you're not eating any of the foods that you really enjoy. How long do you think you can sustain that for? Probably 8 weeks. And the way that these sorts of challenges often, not always, but often promote themselves is with testimonials. And we know what testimonials do, don't we? They take you on day 1, and then by week 8, no doubt you've made changes, but what happens in week 9, 10, 11, 12? Do the people running these challenges really even care? Because now they've got your testimonial to advertise for the next batch. So there's a problem here in that 8-week challenges exist because they're great tools for selling training, and they're great for getting testimonials, and they're great for getting 8-week success stories. They are not great. I would argue they're not great for long-term results. Unfortunately, long-term doesn't sell very well, does it? Because we really are living in a day and age when people want something now. People want to see their goals in 6 to 8 weeks. And that's what these things sell. And to an extent, that's what they do until you relapse. That's the problem. I sell long-term change, and let me tell you, that's harder. That's a lot harder. People can't think 9 months down the track, even if it means a change that's permanent. What does permanent change look like? Permanent change, whether it's nutrition or exercise or body composition or injury management and rehabilitation, permanent change is one little thing at a time. This week, what one little thing can you change? And that could be something as simple as, if we look at your nutrition, I've had a client who loves iced tea. She was drinking a bottle of iced tea every day. A lot of sugar in there. So what could you do in this instance? Well, you could stop drinking iced tea, but you like iced tea. So you could substitute it with homemade iced tea with artificial sweetener. That's one little change. One little change, just that one thing. Try that one thing this week. Don't go on a diet. Just look at your nutrition. For example, if we're talking about nutrition, look at your nutrition, look at your diet, look what you eat every day. Choose just one thing today you could change for the rest of the week, and then potentially for the rest of the month. One thing that you identify that could change, that you could probably sustain. And then once you've made that change over the next week, the next 2 weeks, once that change is sort of stuck, make another change. Doesn't have to be nutrition, could be exercise. Instead of going to the gym 3 or 4 times a week suddenly, start jogging once a week. Just start slowly, start steadily. I really encourage people not to jump the gun, not to jump into it too quickly. That's the problem. And if we're looking at exercise, injury risk. You get into it too quickly. Even if you're just doing cardio, doing enough cardio, you can still injure yourself. And I don't want to scare you guys, but you go on the treadmill, go hell for leather, you're motivated. That coin of motivation I've spoken about, you're motivated, you get into it, you're going to have issues with your knees or your ankles. If you really go too hard too quickly, it's going to happen. So essentially, in this video, guys, I'm just advocating that you make little changes. And I really kind of encourage you to steer clear of 8-week challenges that sell results in 8 weeks. I've had family members, I've had clients who go on these challenges, and guess what happens? year after year, their weight bounces up and down, up and down. And guess who they blame when it doesn't work? They blame themselves. I've got a family member who does this, does a lot of challenges, and they work when she's doing the challenge, and then when she stops doing the challenge, it doesn't work. Things fluctuate. People blame themselves when it doesn't work, but you know what? It's not your fault. Not really. Someone's selling you something that doesn't work long term. Unfortunately, it's a very attractive thing to buy, but it doesn't work. You need steady change. You need little changes, incremental, over time, that fit with your lifestyle, that doesn't feel like you're punishing yourself. Find the things you enjoy when it comes to nutritional change. Find something you can still enjoy to replace that bad habit or the thing you're trying to change. Same with exercise. Find what you enjoy with exercise that you can focus on. Steer clear of the 8-week challenge.